Hello and welcome back to the channel. Chess.com has all sorts of bots, from beginner bots to master bots, even athletes, musicians, creators. But now they have a new category, insane, with only one bot, the Blindfolded Hikaru bot. To play this bot, you must be blindfolded, and today we are playing that bot. Let's get started with game number 1. Alright, you guys will see what I see on the left board, and the game review will be on the right board for you guys to follow along. I'm going to go ahead and just play d4. The biggest thing about playing a blindfolded bot is, well, I guess blindfold in general, is playing positions that you're very comfortable with. So I'm very comfortable with the London system. I know this setup like the back of my hand. And so far, because this is a very strong bot, naturally it's going to play a very strong opening. The blindfolded Hikaru bot is playing a relatively standard opening, which will also be relatively easy to remember. Okay, we get c5 right away, striking at the center. The second thing, beyond just playing positions that you are familiar with, is trying to remember all of the relationships between the pieces. That will help a lot. For example, I know that I have a pyramid of pawns. So that helps me remember all 5 of these pawns instead of having to think about, pawn on b2, pawn on c3, pawn on d4, pawn on e3, pawn on f2. I just think, okay, I have a pyramid of pawns. Another example is I know that my opponent is putting a lot of pressure on d4 with the c5 pawn, with the knight on c6, and has a sort of semi-pyramid with the pawn on d5, pawn on e6, pawn on f7, and then one other knight developed. So those are just a couple of ways to kind of start remembering what position you're in, and it's going to be what I'll try to do, although I definitely have my limitations as well. We get queen to b6, definitely the critical line, the most annoying line to play against, targeting b2, and the reason this is so annoying is because I have my pawn on e3, this bishop can never come back and defend b2. So I've actually talked about this on the channel a couple of other times. You have a few options here. Either you tie your queen down indefinitely defending b2, and then you have your strongest piece stuck defending a pawn, or you can move the pawn up and then you no longer have that strong pawn pyramid. The last option is to play for tricks. So I could play something like knight to a3 here, looking for knight to b5. Oh, we actually get queen takes b2. Okay, now I play knight to b5, threatening knight to c7 with the fork. And we get knight to d5. Oh, wait, was I talking about pawn to d5 when that move never happened? Okay, what happens now if I play rook to b1? We get queen takes a2. I'll play rook to a1. Queen goes back, rook to b1. Queen to a2, rook to a1. This is kind of the point of the line, is that if you're playing a stronger player, you can ease them into a draw. And there's no way we got a draw by repetition. Oh my god, that is so... Hold on, I have to see the position. Okay, I can't figure out how to actually see the position, but I can't believe that we just got a draw against a 2800 rated blindfolded bot. That is absolutely just insane. I mean, just a little bit of background. The reason that I started playing knight to a3 is because I thought it was a smart idea when I was a kid who was learning to play chess. And I was playing competitively at this point, but I was still a kid. I wasn't very smart in general. I thought it would be a good idea to play against Fritz, a chess engine that I used to use. I would play all of the lines that I hated playing against, queen b6 being the biggest one, and then seeing how Fritz responded. And one of the lines that Fritz recommended, it definitely wasn't top engine move, but it was one of the top engine moves, was knight to a3. And I was like, what on earth does that do? It puts the knight on the side of the board. I mean, it just looks awful. It still hangs the pawn. So I played it out. I played queen takes b2. I saw knight to b5, and then it goes all zeros. Because after that, the queen is trapped, and you have rook b1, rook a1, rook b1, rook a1, and it's a draw. Black has no better moves than to play the queen back and forth, and white has no better moves than to move the rook back and forth. And that was the birth of this variation. I don't know if this variation existed. I'm sure somebody's played it before I have, but I like to think of it as my little variation because that's how I discovered it. I've used it to get draws against much higher rated opponents, but I've never used it to get a draw against a 2800 rated bot. That is just completely bonkers. To be honest, this video was only going to be 1 game long because I thought this was going to last a lot longer, but we actually got a draw in the first game, so I guess let's go ahead and move on to game number 2. All right, game number 2. This time I'm going to play with the black pieces. We get b3, the Nimzo Larsen, and I actually used to play that a long time ago. We'll play knight to f6. Get bishop to b2, although to be honest, I'm pretty fuzzy on this. It was more of a, I got bored of playing the London. I know, you can't believe it, but I did get bored of playing the London at one point and wanted to play something radically different. We'll go ahead and play d5. It's not the most challenging opening in the world. As you can see, it's very modest setup, so it shouldn't be terribly difficult to get our pieces developed and at least have a decent game. Okay, we get knight to f3. Let's go ahead and develop the bishop. d4, sure, symmetrical. Let's play e6. If you haven't noticed by now, I am playing basically a London with the black pieces. Drop the bishop back with the idea of exchanging and maybe opening up a file, but obviously this bot is not going to play that. We do get short castles. Let's go ahead and play bishop d6. You get c4, finish our development, and then we're just looking for castling. Okay, knight to c3. Our opponent has the same idea. Let's go ahead and castle. Okay, we've completed our development, and now we've entered a relatively dry position to play against a 2800 bot, which is not the most fun thing in the world. I'm trying to visualize in my head right now what the position looks like, and I feel like I have a pretty decent grasp. I basically just have a London system setup, minus the bishop that got dropped back, and my opponent has a very, very typical Nimzo-Larsen setup with all of the pieces where they normally land. This bishop is challenging my bishops as opposed to going to e2. We get the fianchettoed bishop, we have short castles, pawn move to h3. So I feel like I have a pretty good grasp of the position. The problem is I'm not totally sure where to go from here. If I were playing a normal game, and by normal game I mean somebody rated my rating, I would probably play knight to e4 here, with the kind of bold idea of playing f5, almost quote-unquote trapping my own bishop, then dropping it to h5, looking to trade it off for the knight, and everything after that is just kind of flooding my opponent's position, looking for a kingside attack. So I'm going to give that a try, even though I know that this bot is probably going to annihilate me just for attempting it, but let's give it a go. We get knight to e4. c5 is interesting. It closes the center right away, which means the bishop can't look into the center anymore. I guess I'll just drop my bishop back to c7. Queen to c2, right, puts more pressure on e4, and let's go for it. Pawn to f5, see how our opponent deals with this. Okay, we get knight to e2, so right away rerouting the knight, supposedly to f4 to bother this bishop. Doesn't allow h5 and could double my pawns if we get that trade. On the bright side, I can always just trade off this bishop for the knight, and I think I'm perfectly comfortable doing that. So, in the meantime, let's play queen to e8 with the idea of replacing that bishop with the queen. We do get knight to f4, and actually, this should be pretty good for me. Let's go ahead and trade off on f4. I mean, I could be completely incorrectly evaluating the position. Let's play bishop to h5, target the knight. But I'm comfortable playing this. Okay, whoa, what? Rook f to e1. Okay, I'm either losing my mind or my opponent is allowing me to take and triple the pawns. My question is, why on earth would my opponent allow that? I can play knight to g5, which defends the h7 pawn targeted by these pieces. If we get h4, I can always just take on f3. Wow, I mean, I'll go for it. Let's see what happens. We take. G takes f3. I'm either crazy or there's tripled pawns here and the king is butt naked on the king's side. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. We'll play knight back to g5. Oh no, you've got to be kidding me. Okay, wow. And the craziest part is I was doing all that mumbo jumbo calculation about moving the knight back, taking on f3, defending h7. That square is covered by a pawn that I knew was there. That's absolutely depressing. Okay, we're still going to give this a shot though. Let's play queen to h5. I mean, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that the king is exposed. We get pawn to f4. And actually, I've just realized that knight to g5 was completely unnecessary when this pawn was in the way of the bishop. So actually, I could have played knight back to f6 and been perfectly fine. We get f4. Let's play h6, try to weaken the g5 pawn, maybe open up a file. Queen to e2 is very principled, immediately looking for a queen trade, which gets a lot of pressure off of the position. Let's drop the queen back, because I don't think we're interested in the queen trade whatsoever. Queen takes e6 because it partners with the rook to look down the e-file. Absolutely horrendous. Okay, now we have no choice other than to trade the queens, or at least leave the queen on f7 because it's pinned to my king. So I guess let's take on g5, buy some time. Bishop takes f5, doesn't even bother recapturing here. So what's the idea? Okay, right. I guess the idea, wow, that is disgusting. That is so gross. I can't even take this bishop because it's pinned, but this bishop and this queen work together to target my knight. So let's defend the knight, I guess. F takes g5, opponent does recapture. Let's hit the queen. Bishop to h7. Obviously, if I move my king this way, I lose the queen, so I have to move it to f8. Queen to, whoa. Queen d6. If I block with the rook, I guess we trade everything off on e7, and that's losing for me because I'm down a piece. And I have no other choice, really. So rook to e7. Wow, what is this? Bishop G. Is my opponent trying to mate me right now? Because what I would do is I would just trade everything off. And then up a piece, that's an easy endgame to convert. But bishop to G6. Can I play queen F6 here? I guess it would just be a queen trade. I mean, it would end up with the same result. We just trade everything off. So let's give that a try. Queen to F6. Oh! Oh, that is so bad. That's so bad. Oh, man. And you guys can't see the bot talking, but it says arches eyebrows, which is hilarious because that's exactly what Hikaru would do. Oh, man. Yeah, you know what? The bot did the right thing. Went right for the kill. All right, let's go ahead and take back. I'm sure the queen will take with check. Oh, queen takes the rook. Even better. Why not? We move the king out of the way. Queen to H7 back, and then I'm sure we get mated on F7. Surely, right? Oh, not even. Queen to H8, just to be extra fancy. All right. We do lose with the black pieces to the Hikaru bot, but we did get 2 good games in, and honestly, I'm still very, very happy with that initial draw. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know down below if I should play this bot again, or if there are any other bots that you guys would like to see me play, and I will see you guys in the next one.